I give the floor to His Excellency Igor Lukšić to present his vision statement. Your Excellency, please.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an enormous pleasure and privilege to address you today as we begin with this new approach in selecting Secretary General of the United Nations. Today, together, we are pathfinders, and I hope it is for the best of our world. I come from a small but proud country with turbulent history. As an integral part of the socialist Yugoslavia under the leadership of Tito, Montenegro shared the international commitment in setting up the United Nations. Many people don't know it, but Montenegro first sent peacekeepers to the island of Crete in the late 19th century, thus taking part in the first modern-age peace operation. I come from a country that restored its independence 10 years ago, after a peaceful, democratic referendum, thus breaking the pattern in the region. A country that has hugely invested in preserving its multicultural, multi-religious, and multi-ethnic identity. My hometown, the Mediterranean town of Bar, has been known for centuries as a true example of diversities. The old town, although relatively small, used to wall in Christian Orthodox and Catholic churches along with mosques. By pointing out all this, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to say that I understand the modern-day challenges. Monsieur le Président, beaucoup estime...
Chairman, many people think that we're living in the best period in history. But does the youth globally share this sentiment? Are those who are under 25 and make up half of the world's population happy with what life has to offer? People tend to grow pessimistic, and many lie down or wake up in fear. 2015 was a pivotal year for concluding several multilateral agreements. There is no better way to achieve peace and security, foster development and protect human rights than by pursuing our common agenda through global endeavour supported by an integrated approach. So, there is reason for optimism, and the first task, indeed, ought to be building optimism through committed efforts. We must show our youth we deserve this chance.
Current international peace and security landscape raises deep concerns. In too many places, the international community has been unable to prevent and end bloodshed and stop atrocities and suffering of millions of people. Complex challenges such as contemporary and protracted conflicts, dire humanitarian situations, migration, refugee flows, spread of international terrorism and violent extremism are testing our ability to protect the UN Charter and ensure effective protection of civilians, especially the most vulnerable. Compliance with international law and redoubling collective efforts in placing primacy on political solutions for solving differences, rectifying tensions, and achieving sustained peace and stability, including renewed efforts towards disarmament, should be central. I firmly believe we can do more to strengthen prevention and mediation capacities and tools across the United Nations. To that end, there has to be a greater participation by women and youth in addressing challenges and root causes of conflicts and extremism, as well as in improving humanitarian activities. One of obvious avenues, yet still untapped, is through partnership with regional and sub-regional organizations. This also means fostering regional cooperation. For instance, after I initiated it 3 years ago, building on the existing forms, together with my colleagues from the region and the European Commission, we have worked out an effective Western Balkan 6 format as part of the wider regional initiatives. Not only is it a mechanism of economic and political cooperation, but also a tool for preventive diplomacy other regions can replicate. As I have looked into the matter carefully, I believe this leads to the conclusion that there has to be a certain modification in the way the UN team works. More efficiency and effectiveness can be brought about by setting up the UN Peace Operations Group, closely supervised by Secretary General and Deputy Secretary General, as presented in my vision statement. This modification can make a difference in supplying the Security Council and the Peace-Building Commission with necessary and improved insight, enabling better decision-making and improved coordination. Additionally, Deputy Secretary General should have a more accentuated role in dealing with regional and sub-regional arrangements, as well as in the field of mediation and prevention. Mr. President, the 2030 Agenda, along with Addis Ababa Action Agenda, Sendai Framework and Climate Agreement, respond in a viable way to the challenges in all three pillars. But now we need to make them work. We need a more relevant UN in supporting countries to deliver successfully on all these agreements. In order to avoid duplication, it is critical to define leading UN AFPs for each Sustainable Development Goal in a cluster-shaped structure. Cooperation must be strengthened with other multilateral partners as well as with the private sector. To that end, establishing an efficient bottom-up follow-up and review process anchored in the UN and based on good statistics becomes crucial for accelerating implementation of SDGs. We need to learn from already existing concepts, the UPR, for instance. In my opinion, inclusive UN regional economic commissions should be important players in the establishment of regional fora for sustainable development consisting of different stakeholders. It will have pivotal importance in making sure the global development agreements are implemented. I firmly believe the UN Development Group should therefore be transformed into a UN Sustainable Development Group, co-chaired by the UNDP Chief Administrator and Human Rights High Commissioner as shown in the vision statement. UNSD Group should make sure that the new generation of UNDAFs fully reflects the complementary agendas related to development and human rights so that no one is left behind. Ladies and gentlemen, the fact that human rights permeate the whole Agenda 2030 but are at the same time in the core of the peace operations give that pillar a very prominent role. The Human Rights Upfront Initiative should continue as it gives priority to early warning and prevention in particular. In order to make more impact on the ground, cooperation with governments, civil society and regional organizations is essential. Human Rights Council has proved its relevance in improving the human rights agenda, and it deserves a debate about making it one of the principal bodies. Reducing inequalities and combating discrimination requires system-wide coordinated engagement and further strengthening of collaboration between UN entities. This includes raising awareness of the existing international legal instruments and standards as well as developing capacities to attain them. Excellencies, the 21st century United Nations must have a results-oriented, modern, efficient and truly global secretariat. Thus, the next Secretary General should appoint Deputy Secretary General seeking to meet gender equality principle as well as Northern-Southern Hemisphere equality principle. Additionally, I firmly believe Nairobi should be discussed as a seat of the Deputy Secretary General. This includes the efforts to make the senior management team reflect gender equality and regional participation. An office for the youth has to be established in the Secretariat. Secretary General, as part of the preparations to deliver 2018-2019 budget, has to undertake a deep review of the current budget in line with Agenda 2030. It also means that program budgeting has to be in the center. It should result in greater core budget flexibility to prioritize in favor of prevention, mediation, human rights agenda, as well as offices that are in charge of close cooperation with regional arrangements. Further internal improvements are both needed and inevitable, as laid down in the vision statement. There can always be room for modifications and improvements as we go ahead. But lifelong learning should be our in-house commitment to SDGs. Excellence. Oui, c'est exact.
Excellencies, well, it is true. Some may point out that I have no experience of working within the UN, but I have developed extensive experience in working with the UN. In 2009, the government of Montenegro confirmed our participation in the Delivering as One initiative as one of the self-starter countries. Now we are in the final year of the first integrated programme, 2010 to 2016. I'm happy that I could be at the heart of it with my colleagues and make a change. Our experience now travels around the globe as one of the showcases as we prepare to implement new UN Development Assistance Framework in line with the 2030 Agenda. In the case of Montenegro, it has helped to meet objectives and has helped us to develop more quickly. On the UN side, coordinated and coherent work of the whole UN system has demonstrated positive results in solving complex issues that require inter-sector and inter-agency cooperation.
President. In my career, I've had the privilege to serve my country in various capacities. I've always tried to learn something new. As Finance Minister, I've learned that one can never be happy enough with the value you obtain from the resources invested. As Foreign Minister, I've learned it takes a lot of patience and perseverance, no matter how good a goal is. As Prime Minister, I've learned that despite all the skepticism, if there is a strong will, things can get done. My role and the role of the future UN administration would be to do our best to reflect the needs of the ever-changing world. Nothing lasts forever, but the certainty of change. Therefore, we have to work to be able to accommodate for those that come up. This vision is about ensuring effective and efficient UN system in addressing existing and emerging challenges by extending partnerships and strengthening coordination. We need to reinvent multilateralism through the principles of responsibility, inclusiveness and engagement. Shukran jazilan. Большое вам спасибо. Fejčan gansie. Muchas gracias. Merci beaucoup. Thank you all.